1 minute until showtime.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of the Computer America Show. We are about to get started. For today's guest, we have longtime listeners of the show. You may remember his voice because he is on almost every single program. He's as diligent as myself or even as Craig when it comes to doing the show here, and that is Marty Winston. And he is going to be talking about his newest project. And by the way, really want to emphasize the importance of video in this interview because there's going to be a lot of hands-on stuff. It's very... like not even that you need to see the video to be technical. It's just going to be like a lot of show and tell kind of things. So yeah, really check out the video where you can see Marty Winston in all of his glory. And but for everyone else listening on the radio, do not fret, do not worry. We will make everything audio friendly, just like that. So with that being said, we're going to talk about his new project called the 40-Year House. And it's going to be about a 40-year maintenance-free autonomous
Your show will go live in 5 seconds.
So here we go.
4,
Computer America.
3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@ComputerAmerica.com.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us once again on this glorious Tuesday as we get this week started off the right way. Well, yesterday, we started off a pretty good way, but, we're really kicking it into high gear this afternoon with, of course, myself. I am your host, Ben Crossman, but I'm really excited about today's guest because it's a project that I think is going to be maybe not relevant in its entirety to a lot of people. I mean, it's going to be definitely fascinating and interesting, but I think little parts of this here and there are going to start sneaking their way into your homes like a burglar in the night, and they're going to make themselves at home. And again, I don't think people are going to be completely making a home that's going to be 40-year proof tomorrow, but little aspects that that we're going to be talking about, they are definitely coming to a home near you any month or year now. It's going to happen. It's going to happen really soon. So taking the plunge, and again, this is our first hour guest, Marty Winston, voice of Newstit Bulliten Review, and we have lots and lots of them. We actually have a new one that we're playing all this week, and then hopefully next week, I am proud to announce that we are going to start running our segment called Cyber House. And it's going to be all about what we talk here today, but a little bit more in depth, and it's a learning process. So kind of continuing updates of what we talk about. Now, before we get into this proper, I just want to point out that ComputerAmerica.com, besides being a wonderful website that you should definitely go check out, it's going to have show notes. And in the show notes, it will have everything that we talk about here today, including links, including different pages, including articles, anything you could possibly want, including links to 40yearhouse.com, which is where a lot of this information is already cataloged and where you can go take a look at it. If you're exercising, if you're at work, if you're driving, if you're doing something, and you want one place to find everything you need to know, that is your resource. And again, you can find that at ComputerAmerica.com. And then real quick, check out Computer on social media. Sign up for YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, if people still use that, whatever it may be. Sign up for that, and you are entered to win a contest, a prize from our friends over at Logitech. Yeah, they're giving away a Keys to Go $70 keyboard, really great, and we are proud to bring that to you. Now, with that being said, I don't think there's anything else I can really fit in there, so let's just jump into our first and only guest for today's show, because we're going to have so much to talk about, and it's really a fascinating article because, whenever we have guests that involve what we're going to be talking about today, we have on, Quickset for the smart doorknobs, we have on, Nest for the thermostats, we have on Canary for the webcams, and, for home security. We have all the different parts and pieces, but now we're going to have on, of course, Marty Winston to talk about putting it all together in one nice package. So, with that being said, welcome onto the show, Marty Winston. Welcome on.
Thank you, Ben. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing extremely well and excited because, again, definitely go check out the website, 40 Year House. there's a lot of literature, but at the same time, I mean, this is definitely an exciting project. So before we get into specifics or any kind of doodads that you're going to, again, show on the video portion, why don't we start off with
explaining the whole thing.
Yeah, why? I mean, you are well respected when it comes to press and tech stuff, and just like finding really cool things, of course, for our show for the new Sitbones reviews. But I mean, building a house from scratch, that's more hands-on than I think a lot of people, kind of ever do in their lives.
It's scary, I'll tell you that. It's a very, very big, scary project for me. It started 4 or 5 years ago when I started playing with LED light bulbs, and I found that, okay, hey, that's kind of interesting. Cuts way down on the electric bill, good amount of light, and they were able to last 20, 23, 25 years. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Then I learned about LED fixtures. LED fixtures can last more than 40 years. I thought, okay,
wow.
I ever put together a new house, I'm putting in nothing but LED fixtures. And then I started thinking, I wonder what else I can get to last 40 years.
Yeah, and again, that's not the easiest thing to do, because I mean, when it comes to houses and the light bulb LED, Craig said it many times on the show. I kind of grew up with them, so I think no differently. Is that LEDs are such a leap over incandescent. I mean, they don't put off any heat. They last much longer, like you said, much more energy efficient. I mean, just pro. The only con, again, was that an incandescent, because they've been around for 100 years, the manufacturing process had become really streamlined, and they were cheap. 60 cents a bulb, 40 cents a bulb.
You can buy LEDs now for $2.
Yeah, but you mentioned you saw LED lights 5 years ago.
Yeah, they were more than, they were $20.
Right. The price of, I'm sure, a lot of things that we're going to talk about today, just over the 5 years that you've kind of had this idea to where you are now and still continuing your plan. I mean, the price of what you're putting in has to be fluctuating, monthly.
Yeah, some of it up, some of it down. I have to tell you, look, everybody out there, first of all, for those of you who are not looking at the video, I'm dressed like a sunburned pumpkin.
Very festive, very fall colors.
Thank you. Now, a house built like the one I'm building is almost impossible to get a mortgage for. Its total cost of ownership, far less than a normal house, but all that money goes in up front. Less than you would for a normal house and repairing everything, but you're paying for everything up front. So it's about twice as much per square foot as a normal house. And that means that a lot of banks and savings and loans will just never finance it. That is the only part of this that really challenges reality. It's very, very hard to make a normal home that you can get mortgaged. Now, if you've got the money, if you've got the passion, if you've got a solid down payment, it can all happen. But that's the one warning I have, and that's something I can't get technology to address, at least not just yet.
Yeah, and of course the question, technology, Quicken Loans, you can order it off your app. But like you said, is that something that you ran into with the banks and things like that, where
didn't even try? This is just most of the hard stuff in the house, the walls and the foundation forms and the insulation and all that are being donated by vendors.
Okay.
It's the out-of-pocket costs that are coming out of my pocket, and my pocket's almost always empty, so that's taken some time.
Yeah, but my question was kind of and I guess you have to have contractors that also might think the same way that maybe a bank would. And that
they're all getting paid. I mean,
they're definitely paid. But my question is, like, when you say, "Hey, I want to do this, this, and this," maybe heated driveway, or something that you say costs twice as much up front as compared to a traditional method. Does anyone ever kind of look at you sideways and go, "Well, why don't you just go, the normal way instead of?"
Well, a little bit, but mostly I get, "Okay, Bob, whatever you want to do."
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess if you're building the project, then it's your way or, well, your way.
Yeah, now, who knows what they're telling about me over beers? That's another story.
Right.
But let's get back to the house. Part of it was 40 years, and gee, could I do? And surprising how many things started to fall in, and that meant I call it chains of consequence. A water heater could never last 40 years unless you take all of the scale out of the water. Then the water heater can last longer. The shower heads can last longer. Every bit of the plumbing can last longer. You look for these chains of consequence everywhere. And if you find out what it is that makes things fail early and eliminate those, you find yourself in a really happy place in terms of the ability of a structure or a system or a subsystem to last a lot longer than you planned.
Well, I guess my question is that, you mentioned 40-year house, 40 years is going to come into play a lot here. But when you look at 40 years in retrospect, 40 years back, we went from barely having personal computers in the home, like 82, 83. So, we're like 30 years, more like it, but 40 years, no one really had a computer in their home. And now you have computers, and, we're going to talk about some of these. You're going to have computers in almost every room of your house, just passively. Right, yeah. And of course, if you're watching the video portion, he has a computer the size of a deck of playing cards. It is that small. So we're going from, 40 years, but my question is, looking back 40 years and looking forward 40 years, you aren't worried that, tomorrow GE is going to invent the next best thing that's going to render, something like how do you know that your 40-year house is future-proof?
Oh, it doesn't have to be. It just has to keep working.
Okay. I guess that makes sense, but
when's the last time you updated your computer?
About 6 months ago.
Right. And did you have to, or?
Completely voluntary.
Exactly. We're all pushed to replace things early, update them early, be with the next or whatever. And that's called marketing, right? That's where that comes from. Yeah. But I wanted to point out that the 40 years is only one of 3 attributes here. And it's, in some contexts, it's the most important one. In other contexts, it isn't.
Okay.
It's also an energy miserly home.
What do you mean by energy miserly?
It means I'm slowing down all the meters. It's going to use less power to accomplish things than is normal. The footprint of the house, and in fact, this is not the greatest visual in the world, but for those of you who can see the video, I'm zooming in on the floor plan of the main floor of the house.
And there we go. You can't see, he is pointing the camera towards a drafting board, and he has the floor plan all laid out.
And marked up with things I'm adding that aren't normal, like DC power runs and where little sensor heads go and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Energy miserly really requires attention to the things you learned in physics class and the things you learned from a thermos bottle. Energy miserly has to do with not wasting energy. That's most important part of it. Mm-hmm. Conserving the energy that you do have and taking advantage of little tricks to make energy go farther. For example, I mentioned hot water heaters and how we looked at scale as a factor there.
Right.
Well, the first thing I did was, and I've done a lot of homework, and believe me, it takes a lot of homework on this. The first thing I did was to decide that I didn't want to have another hot water tank in my life ever. So I started looking at tankless hot water heaters. That's a good start. And then I started talking to some of the manufacturers, and I learned about condensing tankless hot water heaters. In a standard hot water heater, I'll use a Snapple bottle full of water for this demo.
Okay.
On video. There's a fire down at the bottom and a thing that works kind of like a car radiator in reverse. So the little bit of fire gets these little tiny tubes of water hot all at once and feeds it down the line. So you almost immediately get a full flow of hot water on water that wasn't heated until you first had some demand for it.
Okay.
Now, in a condensing tankless hot water heater, the flue at the top has gas and heat exhaust out the top. It runs the incoming water line around that to pick up the waste heat to preheat the water going down to get heated. That saves a little bit. By the way, chains of consequence, you have to have a neutralizer for the acid drip that comes out of one of those. Another class in high school that you all wanted to miss. Now, my builder is brilliant.
Yeah.
He said, water comes out of the ground here. We're in South Carolina at about 50 degrees centigrade or in the mid 50s. We're going to have a fully insulated house with a conditioned attic space. If we put a 200-gallon tank in the attic and just take water out of the ground and put it in that tank, it's going to come up to room temperature.
Right.
So we get a boost from the mid-50s to the mid-70s for free before it ever feeds to the hot water heater.
And I guess my question is, tankless water heaters, I've heard a bit about them. I'm sure you've done much more research, but I thought that, just heating thing, like how much, like, is that 20-degree difference really that big of deal when you're just going like another 10 or 15, above room temperature? I mean.
Well, sure. Because instead of, let's say your target is 110 degrees,
right,
which is kind of normal, right? So instead of going from having to do a 60-degree rise, now you only have to do a 40-degree rise.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's less fuel. It's cutting down on the amount of fuel necessary to do that. And because you're not maintaining water in a tank, that again is less fuel. But there's one more trick here.
Right.
A thing called eco drain.
Eco drain.
Eco drain goes under the shower in the master bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes the hot water going down the drain and works strictly thermally. There's no intermix of water.
Right.
It thermally heats one more time the water heading to the hot water heater.
Oh, there you go.
So we've recaptured just basic room temperature. And by the way, that we're in a mostly air conditioning climate here, so that helps cool the house a bit.
Right.
That's with a water tank and by the way, a dab pump out the side, make sure we got all the pressure we want. We heat it again if the hot water usage happens to be for the shower. If it's not, it has no ill effect. And we get to a water heater that never needed to have a tank maintained at a temperature, and that again, through its own operation, helps preheat the water it's heating. So overall, we've probably done, I would guess, a 35% reduction in the energy we need for hot water.
Yeah, no, that seems like, I bet you kind of the thing that you just explained there is going to be throughout the house is that these little things that are going to be over and over and over again, the little things are going to add up to a house that I think you said towards the beginning, half as expensive like to run and operate, or what kind of savings?
I don't know what that fraction is going to be. Over the life of the house, I know total cost of ownership is less, mostly because of, have you ever had to replace an air conditioning unit?
I actually have a friend who's an air conditioner, who does air conditioning for a living, and not easy. But it's not easy. But I don't know if you're wondering about the replacing the air conditioner, but he mentioned like we have one that's like 15 years old. In his line of work, he recommends replacing an air conditioner every 7 to 10 years because they double in efficiency over that lifespan. I mean,
well, they double in it, but there's another factor there, and one that even I can't avoid.
Yeah.
Roughly every 7 to 10 years, sometimes a little longer, the federal government changes the requirements for the refrigerant in it, which forces you not to get a recharge, but to replace it. But it's modular. It's made of subsystems, kind of like your computer. You can replace just a compressor, not have to worry about the rest of it. The point is, anytime you're replacing any one of those parts, that's a pretty big ticket item.
Right.
So anytime you can make it last 4 years longer, 5 years longer, 10 years longer, 20, 30 years longer, you've saved yourself a lot of money on the number of the roof. Roof is a good example. A standard shingle roof would have to be replaced 3 times during a 40-year span.
Huh.
But a raised metal roof, like the kind DECRA makes, DECRA, a raised metal roof will last that long. Costs 2.5 times as much, lasts 3 times as long. Do the math. You're ahead.
Now, and I'm just kind of looking up a raised metal roof here, and I never I thought I knew. Oh, so it's kind of like the slats with the siding. Okay, that's and of course no one hates tin roofs. Those things are wonderful to listen to.
Well, this is a steel roof, not a tin roof. It's got ceramic coating on it.
Oh,
and it's well advanced. You're not going to hear rain going like a drummer boy up there.
Oh, well, you take the good with the bad. Okay, but I kind of want to go back a little bit, and this is towards your energy Meisner house. That is a new term to me, but not a bad term. I'm sorry, energy miserly, not
yes,
miserly house. And I was wondering why you didn't go with the other buzzword, which was off the grid, zero electricity, or feeds back into the grid.
And that's a great question. And the answer is there is no technology for going off the grid that's reliable enough to go the 40 years. Also, the maintenance costs on solar, the maintenance costs on wind, crazy.
So you're saying that instead of trying to do green energy completely off the grid, you're going with reduce and reuse and recycle and all that good stuff, just kind of reducing the cost, trying to keep the cost the same, but get it from alternative sources.
Right. You know, I'm stingy. I'm insulating things at a level that normally don't get insulated. The foundation is insulated on both sides. The walls are made from a sandwich of engineered board with solid foam in between. It's better insulation than anything you could ever blow into a wall. Doing a lot of that stuff, jacketing, taping, burying it in a closed cell polyfoam. Everywhere I can stop heat from moving, everywhere I can stop loss, we're ahead. Now, we should talk, because this is not called Insulation America.
Right.
We should talk about the third element, being an autonomous house. And there is a point of confusion there, because in Europe, for example, autonomous means off the grid. That's not what we're doing.
Okay.
What we're doing here is going generation after next automation.
And you have access to this through products that people can already buy, but you're just implementing them to an extent that people really don't, or?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk to that. I mean, a lot of it is kind of nasty, naughty about what the companies in computer automation want to do to make more money for their investors. I think more to the point on this. We have sensors.
Right.
Sensors are wonderful points of input, because the more aware automation can be of what it's dealing with, the easier it is for simple things like programming to come up with answers. And I'm reaching for some automation now. If you have your video on, this will be a good moment for it. And I'm turning an extra light on here.
Right. Yep. And for those of you who can't see the video portion, the lighting is a little bit weird, but he's showing a circuit board with a little chip, and that chip, as I understand it, is going to be in a lot of places.
30 different places in the house. This is the Panasonic Grid Eye. It's about the size of a kernel of corn. It's a surface mount chip. The Grid Eye takes an 8x8 grid of temperature measurements. So given the height of our ceilings in the house design, we will have 2-foot square pixels of temperature measurement everywhere. Now, with some clever programming, and it's really not all that clever, we can separate warm bodies from background. And I just set that at 90 degrees. If we have to tweak it, it's one setting in one place, and we tweak it.
Right.
If something's above 90 degrees, we know that it's not a background temperature. And if it's not a background temperature, then we can track its position in the room by knowing the address of that pixel, that pixel, if you will, thermal pixel, and watch it move. That comes in useful in a minute. Let's get back to the background temperature.
Right.
In fact, let me back up just a whole other level. We talk about autonomous and next generation autonomy. I want to give a more concise description here. We're dealing with thousands of sensors. We're dealing with hundreds of actuators, most of which are involved in things like lighting and turning fans on and off. We're dealing with more than 100 computers and controllers, mostly the Raspberry Pi Model 3B that you just saw, that deck of cards computer.
Mm-hmm.
And together, they are there to try to recognize the needs of both the structure and its occupants, and as much as possible to address those needs without requiring human participation. So it's kind of like Walt Disney meets George Jetson.
Yeah, no, it's futuristic. It's futuristic in the sense that I think little things that people are going to be doing in their daily lives. I assume that this is going to play a huge part in cooling and heating the house and in the rooms. This is obviously going to play a huge part in security and what have you, and tracking people throughout the house. And I'm sure lighting is also. I mean, if you can track someone using these pixels, these thermal pixels, it seems like you can tie everything. I mean, lighting to it, just so if there's someone's in the room, you can turn.
That's exactly right. I'm going to show you one more piece that's kind of interesting.
Sure.
Anybody have an e-reader like a Nook?
Like
this one just shows that the battery needs charging.
Right.
And I got to figure out how to get at it to make it show anything else. You can get a sense because my head's next to it in the picture. It's roughly a 6.5, 7-inch thing. Normally, this is only going to show the house number. It's what's called a vanity panel. It sits next to the front door, shows a house number.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a fire in the house, this is going to change. It's going to show the floor plan of the house with the location of every adult, every child, every infant, every pet, and every hotspot on the floor plan. And to complete that picture, if there's a fire in the house, in addition to a fire sprinkler system that responds automatically, we have a voice modem. Good luck finding those. I found one of the last ones. We have a voice modem that places voice calls selectively to county and local fire departments. We can turn off the gas line, natural gas line, just after the tap to the generator. We can use a thing called contactors. It's a heavier power relay. It's about $10 to turn off every fan in the house, to turn off the HVAC system so there's no air movement to encourage combustion.
Mm-hmm.
We can unlock all 5 exterior doors and put the cameras facing those doors on full-time record while changing that panel to show where first responders should go.
That was a lot of words to say. The house is essentially going to keep everything as contained as possible.
And is safe, yes.
And is safe. And, of course, features like that's not even, hey, make sure your smoke detector has a battery every 2 years. That kind of thing. Do you think that's, and of course, again, this is a 40-year house. This is a house that is supposed to be working.
You want to know if that's doable now? The answer is yes.
Well, not just doable, but is that going to be standard in new builds? Is that going to be standard?
No, it will never be standard if there's a cheaper way.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
It's a really neat thing.
Look, you've got to, if you're a builder and a buyer of a new house, you've got 2 choices. Spend less for the house, spend more for the house.
Mm-hmm.
Or make more money on the house, make less money on the house.
Yeah, with those options, it's very obvious which one builders are going to take.
Yeah. So let's be practical about it. But you can buy a Kidde Firex wired system, interconnect them all. It comes with an accessory relay. Mm-hmm. If you have that relay control the contactors, 2 separate contactors, one to the HVAC system and one to a single circuit breaker to which you've wired all the fans in the house, then you've accomplished that part of it. There are so many pieces out there that you can add today to make these things happen just piecemeal. You can tinker toy it all you want, and it's useful and it can be fun.
Right.
But it's not about being fun. It's really about being useful, being helpful, reducing human chores.
Yeah, and okay, so let's get back to the the thermal pixels and these little
Yeah. Oh, the background I mentioned. The first thing you want to do in each room is to compare the minimum and maximum temperatures in that room, and you set a difference. If it's greater than that difference, then you have a reason to suspect that there's a problem with either the ventilation or with the insulation. So the first thing you do is get your automation, turn on the ceiling fan, stir the air in the room.
Right.
Fine, it stirs the air in the room. You check back in half an hour, and if it hasn't leveled off, then the system sends an email to the occupant saying, hey, we've found something, you might want to check it out.
And would it be able to send information that kind of like a chessboard? G8 is strangely high. Maybe there's a dog or an animal, or like, would it be able to send contain information, or is it just, hey, something's wrong in the room?
Well, it's whatever we decide, by just saying, hey, there's something wrong.
Right.
We don't want people to rely too much on determination of the intelligence until the intelligence has a better education.
Has proved itself, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so are these temperature things? Are they going to be in every room of the house?
They will not be in lavatories.
Oh, okay.
But the house floor plan will have 30 of them. And by the way, I talked about energy efficiency. The main house is a little over 2,400 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a breezeway to an oversized 3-car garage, and above the 3-car garage, 900 and some square feet, is a bonus room, which will have my office and my wife's office and a workout room and some storage and some workbenches and a few other things. That's a total of just under 3,500 square feet. And having done, through a third party, an energy analysis of the HVAC needs of that house, we can heat and cool the whole thing with a 1.5-ton unit.
That is surprisingly low.
Yes, it is. It's delightfully low. And one of the major reasons is that we are insulating the ductwork and putting it in conditioned space. Conditioned space can be as simple as putting the insulation on the roof of the attic instead of the floor of the attic.
Yeah, and again, it's all those little tweaks that are going to wind up being a very, very, I'm going to say, kick-ass house. It's going to be a very insulated and very fun house. So, yes, Marty Winston continues on with us. We're going to finish out the hour here with them, but we are only getting started in the technology part of this smart house. So stay tuned for more Computer America as we really get into what makes it so smart. Be right back with Computer America.
Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf's staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
No, coax is not a nickname for a double hatchet. Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Silverstone Tundra TD02E liquid cooler. When we found that our original liquid CPU cooler had disintegrated, we had Silverstone send their Tundra TD02E, a squat, full alloy water block that needs no screws to mount. We love that they fill and seal their assembly at the factory. Dual 120 millimeter fans and brazing on the radiator fins add up to very efficient cooling in a slender assembly that doesn't block the motherboard. Its two-host construction also simplifies installation. You'll need a strong magnifying glass to read the instructions and illustrations, but everything that isn't paper is wonderful. Bottom line, the Silverstone Tundra TD02E liquid cooler is simply engineered better. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show, 33 minutes past the hour, as we continue on here with Marty Winston, editor of News at Bulliten. And if you're watching the video, I thought he did a dramatic zoom in, which he did, and now he is pointing to something that we are going to get into because, don't get me wrong, very interesting to hear about a house that's from the ground up from its foundation to its insulation to the water heating and cooling, what have you. Obviously well thought out. But let's get into some of the tech stuff. And if you're watching the video portion, which we recommend and is going to be archived, he is pointing to one gadget that I'm sure we're going to talk about this hour, and it looks like a drone.
It's an eHang Ghost 2.0 quadcopter with a 4K camera on a spherical mount slung underneath.
Sounds like a drone.
It's a drone. And what's really nice about it, and by the way, this is also an example of companies working with me to improve their products to be an even better fit for the house.
Right.
I wanted a drone to do three things. I wanted to be on a fixed path with fixed waypoints so we could do day-by-day video documentation of the build. And then, you edit that head to tail and you watch the house go up.
Yeah, time-lapse, of course.
Yeah. No, we also have 4 time-lapse cameras, and I'll be doing a good deal of documentation myself. And that's fine. But with waypoints, which they are almost done implementing, I should have, I think, in January. In addition to doing that, I didn't want it just as a camera.
Right.
A drone has a purpose for any house that's anywhere near trees. The last time you had to climb a ladder to see if the gutters were clogged, did you feel safe up there?
Yeah, I mean, I had these 4 black olive trees, and if you've ever lived next to black olive trees, they are some of the worst you can ever imagine. But yeah, no, doing any kind of roof maintenance, I had a 6-foot ladder and a 10-foot roof. It was not fun.
No, and with that drone, once I teach it the waypoints for the corners of the house, it can patrol the gutter. And I can see on video if there are any places I need to inspect, and only have to climb the ladder for a very limited number of them. Now, if I arm the drone and get it some missiles, maybe it can clear it itself. But at the moment, I'm just looking for pictures.
No. Fire. Just burn the gutters right out.
It should work, yeah. Also, we're on a 5-acre property.
Right.
So, and in a place that gets its share of storms. We're about halfway along the Savannah River, about 15 miles from Augusta, Georgia, in what's kind of southwest South Carolina.
Hurricanes come through there all the time. Absolutely.
They do. So in the case of a storm, if I've got the waypoints for the corners of the lot, then I can have that fly an orbit of the lot, bring back video, and I can see any kind of felled trees. I can see standing water, dead animals, landed flying saucers, whatever happens to be there.
Yeah, no, it's a 5-acre lot is definitely, not something that you step out of your door and say, and just look around and say, oh, it's good. 5 acres is definitely, is it wooded? I mean, where you are, you mentioned trees?
Yes. Yeah, it is. And it's a mix of deciduous and evergreen, which means we've got a lot of flammable needles down all the time. And there's nothing that doesn't clog whatever you put around a house.
Right. So you mentioned 3, and we have gutter, we have tree and property patrol.
And then documenting the build is the third one.
Building. Got it.
Yeah.
And how autonomous is this drone? Is this
once they've given me the software for the waypoints, then I have to launch it, but it'll do the route by itself and bring it back to me. In fact, I've done some tests and had the drone take off from the top of my car and land within 2 inches of its takeoff point.
That's not bad. And I think
I know pilots who can't do that.
Oh, absolutely not. But I think that it's also going to be good because if you just had it set every single day, like you mentioned, rain or hail in some cases, high winds. I guess if you had it strong, too autonomous, it might take itself off in unsafe conditions, which you don't want.
Well, the other challenge to full autonomy is getting it recharged when it gets back.
Right.
You also want to keep it sheltered when it's back. So, you could build a house with
very complicated.
A James Bond kind of thing going on.
Definitely.
You don't necessarily need that. I wanted to get into, there's one other piece I want to show. This is from Vyar. It is the Wallabout DIY. Doesn't look like much. It's a slab.
Right. If anyone who is not watching the video, I would say think of the largest phablet, phone tablet mix. It's not on fire, so it's not a Samsung Galaxy S7. But think of like the largest one you've seen, and it kind of has like a DSLR camera lens on the front.
Well, no, that's actually a magnet, and what I have here is an S6.
Oh, S6. So yeah, about the same.
So they give you a stick-on magnet. Magnet goes on the back. I can rub this against walls, and it will image inside the wall. It's using RF backscatter. So you're seeing a radio frequency shadow of wires or pipes, or in some cases leaks that are happening behind the wall. I saw this demoed at CES. I have been nagging them ever since to get me one. It got here this week. It is so much fun to watch. I gotta tell you, you get a sense of X-ray vision. And there are some other tools too. For example, Ryobi.
Right.
For those of you who are looking, this looks like it might have been a tiny spray can or something of the sort.
Right.
But it's really, got a light on it. It's really a screwdriver that works. This is a little dangerous. I'll try not to hurt myself. When you press in on it, it's variable speed.
Right.
So if I'm working on an equipment rack, for example, I just press to screw or unscrew.
Mm-hmm.
It's made to fit the heel of your hand, so you can work on this a lot without getting tired. And there's just an alternative to this also from Ryobi that I'll bring up. That's a right angle driver, little bit bigger, pretty butch, but a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and for those who didn't see that, I mean, it was kind of like the head part was very, very small, but the handle was absolutely huge. So obviously, all the torque and all the batteries kind of held up in the handle, but the head is easy to squeeze into tight places, obviously.
Well, tight enough, yeah. Ryobi, by the way, is new to the garage door opener segment, and I'm not making full use of what they provided, but this house will have 3 separate single-car garages.
Mm-hmm.
The opener has an LED light at the bottom. It can handle the garage door easily enough. It's fairly quiet. It's modular. You can plug things into it. You can plug in a cord reel. You can plug in an inflator hose. It has a park assist that shines down a pair of laser beams. So when it hits that part of your hood or windshield, that's when you stop. It has a Bluetooth speaker. It has a carbon monoxide sensor. It has a 7-speed fan. It comes with an app. You can control it from the app. But for me, there's an API, and I'm going to wheedle it out of them so my automation can talk to it more directly. I'm doing other stuff. Did I show this yet?
You did not.
This is a double head ultrasonic unit. They're about $3. You can buy them on Amazon. Not much to it. It sends out a ping and listens for it, and the time between gives you distance. So you put it into an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, and you can pretty much figure out distance. Each garage space will have 5 of these facing down from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the distance it measures, we can know whether it's seeing an open garage door, the top of a car, or the floor of the garage.
Right.
Now, by having these in a line back from the garage door, we have a way to tell whether the space is occupied, whether the door's open or closed, whether the car is there or not, and we could use it to tell the car where to stop. Although I am hoping to get the LiDAR-1, which is a LiDAR unit, to go on the back of the garage. Gives me a horizontal distance to reflect off the car from its laser.
Right.
And that will give me both distance and speed, which can be important. And then I can just flash a light on the ceiling. I had some... Oh, I didn't put them away. Yeah, I did put them away. I had a bag full of little relays here I was going to show you, but you've seen relays. It's not a big deal. Another trick, Bluetooth, which is more standards than you want to count, has a standard within it called Bluetooth Beacon. Bluetooth Beacon. Bluetooth beacons transmit.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time you use a handset app to receive them. So, for example, if you're in a hospital or a college campus or another large building and you've told the app where you want to go, it gets to a beacon, it knows where that beacon is, and as a result of knowing where that beacon is, it can tell you go down this hallway and take a left, whatever it needs to tell you. They're also used in stores. You could, hey, you can save 20% now if you buy 18 of the, it's that kind of thing. But I'm putting a Bluetooth beacon transmitter in each of our cars because it is individually encoded. And it will be turned on only when the car is on.
Okay.
So using that and I can adapt an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi to be a Bluetooth beacon receiver. I can have a receiver at the apron of the driveway, a second receiver near the garage or in the garage, and a third receiver at the front door. When a car that lives in the house, when the garage is there, comes in or exits the drive, we know it. When it comes in or exits the garage, we know it. When it's in the garage and turns off, we know it. When it's in the garage and turns on, we know it. When it comes to the front door to wait, we know it.
I mean, great way to track a car, but what
more useful than that.
Yeah, what applications does that really kind of give you?
Well, let's start with opening and closing the garage door appropriately, never forgetting, and never letting it happen while the car is still running.
Okay. It's not bad. That's I don't know how many times people have left open their garage doors.
All night? Yeah, it happens a bit.
Yeah. So it does stuff like that. I'm sure that you could program it to, let's say you had a kid at home or something like that, then you could, kind of see when they leave or when they get back and, obviously monitor that kind of thing.
Monitoring is easy in this house. Most houses, think about a doorbell. What's a doorbell? Doorbell is one loud thing that goes, or bing bong, or whatever it's doing.
Right.
By the way, I did not win an award for doing bing bong.
I think that you actually did a Newsday Bulletin review for a doorbell that actually takes MP3, so you could just play songs. But that's
I did. But what we're doing is taking that inspiration. That's from Brown Newton,
right?
And putting small audio amplifiers and speakers in the same ceiling pods that hold our caps, which are the ceiling awareness pods, if you will, where that Panasonic grid eye and an ambient light sensor and some other things go, which means I now have a distributed doorbell. I can take a library of 30 or 40 MP3 sounds and play them as appropriate selectively in rooms that have people in them and not play them where people shouldn't be disturbed because it's nighttime or it's a guest and you don't want to bother them. So, for example, if a car is coming into garage space 1 and garage door 1 is opening, I might hear boop, 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 boop. I'm sorry, that would be garage space 3. Garage space 1 is boop, boop.
Right.
Going down, boop, boop. If they're waiting at the front door, it might be, whatever makes sense. If there's mail in the front mailbox, it sounds like a bicycle bell, like an old postman.
Right. So you and again, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that monitoring in this house is easy. All these little things that you've added are going to let you, of course, monitor like we said, but it's going to allow you to kind of get notification of anything that happens in your house. So why don't we jump over to, if you don't mind, security, because security is a problem for a lot of people.
Well, let's separate a couple of things. There's security and there's surveillance and there's safety, and there are 3 separate things.
Okay, so which one does your house really shine through in? That maybe
surveillance.
Okay,
it shines. I mean, surveillance because we're going to have 24 cameras. None of them inside, not one inside, but 24 cameras around the perimeter of the house, shooting whatever's happening in the yard. An NVR that we're building that does pixel shift sense. If too much of a picture changes, all of a sudden the software triggers and says, hey, you got something going over here. It'll automatically capture that. It goes to the hard drive. Hopefully I'll get some NVR specific drives from Seagate for that.
Right.
And that gives me a record. So after the fact, we can find somebody. During the fact, we can use them for some kind of fun things. Like if you walk through the yard while it's sprinkling, it'll turn off the zone you're about to walk into. Little stuff like that. But it's there to be kind of whiskers, kind of give us a sense that there's something happening here, that there's somebody there. Safety doorknobs. Now, you mentioned some of the electronic knobs, electronic deadbolts.
Right.
I've probably reviewed 24 of those. and I chose none of them. What I did, and this comes from the commercial side, I got in touch with Schlag. Schlag's making locks for things like hotels and schools and commercial buildings, that kind of thing. And they have electrified locks. Very simple. You take, do I have one here? I thought I did. Here we go. This is a 24-volt power supply. It's a wall wart with a cord on it. We've seen these before.
Not complicated.
Right. You have the doorknob, and on the inside, it's plain knob, so you can always leave the house.
Right.
On the outside, looks like a plain knob. It has a key lock, just the standard cylinder. And your key can always lock and unlock it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a solenoid inside. When powered, there's a thing called a dead latch. It's the wedge kind of thing you've seen indoors before with a backbone on it. So you can't just run a coat hanger or a credit card down it.
Right.
When there's power to it, and you do that selectively, that door is locked. There's no getting through that door without a key.
Yeah. So, wait. So even with the key, I thought you mentioned. I thought you meant that, like,
with the key can still unlock. A key can always lock and unlock. Electric can always lock and unlock.
Right.
So with this thing, and by the way, there's an invisible feed because they have special Ives hinges that invisibly allow me to make that power coupling to the lock just along the trim of the door. It's all internal. You don't see it. And not seeing things is one of the principles of this house. We don't want wall measles all over the place. We also don't want batteries anywhere. Everything that runs on DC lines. But let's get back to the lock. Because we've got these electrified locks, the automation can fully control locking and unlocking. It could be as simple as everybody's going to bed, lock the house up.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's an intruder in the yard, lock the house up. Or there's an intruder inside the house, silently unlock all the doors so first responders can get in.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
Now, is that security? Is that safety? Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a little bit of both. And, and Marty, I can't believe that, 50 minutes have already gone by and we have barely touched it. And again, I will make the point very clear. Go on over to 40yearhouse.com. 40 is the number 40, and check out everything that we're talking about here as well as more, because, underneath your plan, you have, of course, energy plan, endurance plan. I was just looking through the autonomy plan where you have, this house broken down into, garages, like you mentioned, and then HVAC, lighting, occupancy sensing. You have all this broken down on your website.
I've only just begun. When that site is finished, it'll be over 900 pages. Right now I have about 90 pages open. About 70 of them have content.
Right. So real quick, what plans have, because you mentioned storms, and we know hurricanes go through Georgia all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of, when the power goes out, the grid's down, life is hard for everyone because there's no power or electricity to your house.
Well, there is in my house. There's a Cummins backup generator.
Okay.
The power demands that the house has are light enough that one 20 kVA generator can pretty much handle everything, including the variable frequency well pump. There are UPSs throughout the house. I'm holding up a simple circuit board that has nothing on it but 3 capacitors and a little terminal into which wires go.
Right.
I mentioned not having batteries. What we're doing instead of batteries is we're taking a cyber power UPS, a PFC 850, which means it's 850 volt amps. It is line interactive. So if the incoming line voltage varies, it auto adjusts for that. If it needs to, it kicks in from its battery supply. It's also sine wave, so it's absolutely compatible with anything we might want to put on it. That is driving a standard computer PSU because I need 3.35 and 12 volts, and your computer does too. Mm-hmm. So I can get 40 to 50 amps of each of those voltages out of that PSU. I can put it on a 4-strand conductor and have those distributed through the house. And what I'm doing is 6 of those.
Right.
Those are at midpoints on those 4 conductor cable runs, and their grounds are all tied together. And at the end of each run is one of these boards with 3,000 microfarad capacitors on it, which just means that if there is just a strange coincidence that has everything connected to it pulling power at the same time, the capacitor can buck up the voltage, so everything stays in spec. And because the PSU itself is at the center of the run and going in both directions, and those caps are at both ends, I can deal with number 14 cable and never worry about the cable resistance being a factor.
Okay. Yeah. So
high school, brother. Yeah.
That would explain why a lot of it went over my head. I took no physics in high school. I skipped that completely. Thank goodness, because that sounded very hard. All right. So in these last 5 minutes, why don't we talk about some of the fun things that you have planned for this house? Of course.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the most fun things is at the apron of the drive. Now I've got to hide some stuff in there that reads the buried coil detectors and vehicle detectors and controls the lamps on top. So I decided to make them look like stone lamp pillars.
Yeah.
But the stone is just a veneer on a frame. Inside, there is a hoist or winch. And when I trigger a wireless key switch, the shell of the house lifts up, or that little housing lifts up 4 feet, showing just an empty frame and the rack of gear inside, which lets me in to work on it, and then it comes down again. So it looks a little bit like Get Smart.
Yeah. No, you mentioned James Bond with the drone thing and how that wasn't possible, but that sounds James Bond.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah.
I have to trap Blofeld in one of them, I think.
So this house, this website, this whole project, obviously, you're trying to get a lot of companies to kind of work with you, send you products, and that you're going to integrate directly into your home. Is this a passion project? Is this a marketing stunt? Why? Is this your house?
Well, number one, because if I don't do it, I don't think anybody else has enough of a screwy group of educational influences that would let them do it.
Okay.
Part of it is because I want to. The website has 2 purposes, other than general info for the general public. One is to provide resources to the press who may want to cover it, and the other is to provide resources to educators who may want to use some of the examples of the house in the classroom.
Okay.
Simple things like how well insulation can save you money. You put insulation on a duct. You don't just insulate the duct; you also seal it against leaks.
Oh wait, you said duct. I think you meant duck, like a quack. Okay, that makes more sense.
No, we save the quacks for the medical building.
But yeah, no, and so definitely information, and if you really do document this as well as you're planning to, with your drone, with your camera, with all these different ways, then this could definitely be used as a learning tool. Going forward, because I think one of the reasons why other people don't do this, like you said, they don't have your connections. But another thing is, it's hard for people to take the first step. No one wants to be the first one to say, "Wow, that was a lot more money than it was worth."
Well, not many people have my skepticism. Not many people are willing to confront CEOs and tell them their product is just screwed up and what it should be. And I don't hesitate to do that. By the way, anybody out there who's familiar with Raspberry Pi and good at Python and willing to do some work for beer money, I could use some help programming the 55 of these that are going to be in the house. So get in touch.
Yeah. I think we have a good audience for that. Send us an email or question, submit a question on our website or live at computeramerica.com. We'll definitely put you in touch with them. That's definitely our audience. But no, now we're running short. What is the next step? Because I think you just we just talked yesterday, and you mentioned you just got the building permit.
No, we're getting the building permit this week.
So we're getting the building permit this week.
Next week we go out to the property with a brush hog and the surveyor, and we peg the corners of the house and of the septic system,
right,
and clear that down to almost dust.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we talked about here today on the show, all these different gadgets and all the different plans. I'm sure to someone out there, it sounded like this was a house that you had done, and this is what you're doing in it. No, you are about to start doing all this right now.
Yes, and there's no hair left yet. So I don't think there'll be any left at all a year from now.
It's going to be a big adventure, and of course, document, because I think when if nothing else, I think a lot of people move into a house and they have no idea when it was built, how, like, they have like a year it was built. They have no idea what lines were drawn, what floor plan
90
is.
seconds.
You're going to have a lot of that stuff available just like that. So are people going to, and of course we're going to be running the Cyber House segments here, a couple days a week in lieu of the News and Bulletin reviews. And of course they can continue to check out 40yearhouse.com. But is there anything like any kind of time that you're really looking forward to? The foundation is going to be poured and we're ready to start.
Pouring the foundation is the next step. The foundation is an insulated concrete form, and we have to
60
wait for those
seconds.
to arrive. So
Right.
the next step is getting those in and enough money to pay for the concrete. Anybody want to sponsor it? You could have a foundation named after you.
Absolutely. So yeah, and like I said, we will continue to follow this throughout the year and throughout this whole thing, because it's going to be very interesting. And Marty, thank you for coming on and telling us all about it. It was a lot of
my pleasure, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. And like I said, we will continue to keep everyone informed about what you do. Now, with that being said, Marty Winston, if you've missed this in any part, you can go back and listen to the archives. And I just want to say, tomorrow we have Mr. Mike Cermak, open mic night, as Craig used to call it. And he is a great programmer, web developer, front-end kind of guy, long-time correspondent on the show. And he's going to be here tomorrow talking all things,
10
I'm sure,
seconds.
Tesla. It's going to be a lot of fun. So join us tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 p.m. on Computer America. And with that being said, that is done, and we're still on the video portion. But I just want to say one more time, thank you, Marty, for doing that, and for all of the video watchers. Thank you for for tuning in and seeing that, because there was a lot of hands-on kind of look at the drone, look at this, look at that. It was a lot of fun. So thank you once again, Marty.
Well, thank you, Ben, and it was kind of fun, wasn't it?
It was. So everyone else out there, thank you for tuning in, and see you at the same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.